your ability to communicate with your players. I mean, your players know that when they speak, they're listened to. I mean, there are situations where, in one ear and out the other. Where does that come from? I mean, where did you learn that type of dialogue is valuable, whether it be from players, from assistant coaches, whatever the case may be?
I think working for Sean McVay, again, he was younger than most of the players we had on the team. He's 3 years younger than me. And so watching just how he interacted with the players, and it's kind of where I learned, like, it's okay to have a relationship with your players, like a personal relationship. Whereas I always assumed, man, outside the building, you don't interact with the players. That's not what you do. My thoughts really changed on that when I saw how close our team was in LA, the success we had, a lot of it because of Sean and the relationship he had with the players, and that extended beyond the field as well and out of the building. And it kind of helps you reshape a little bit of what's acceptable and maybe what is important in terms of building the type of team we want to build.
There are contract-related issues in every NFL camp, but they don't seem to get contentious here. How do you avoid that?
Just having dialogue with the players, just making sure they can talk to you and you can talk to them, and a lot of it stays between the two. Hey, just go ahead and vent to me, and what can I do to help you? And maybe here's why this is happening right now. And so again, they're all different. Every single time anything has ever happened with the conversation, it's always a little bit different. But here it's just been good. This training camp's been good for us, and we've all been on the same page with everybody.
Communication just seems to be like such a common theme in your organization. I mean, watching the players, when they're on the field, you see communication. When they're in the cafeteria, you see communication. When they're in the locker room, you see communication. And a lot of it's football. That young guys have questions for old guys, but a lot of it's, life in general. I mean, it's really good to see that type of bond being built in all of those arenas, environments, no matter age, race, religion, side of the ball, money, anything.
It's something we can't take for granted. When you got it, don't take it for granted. I've learned that, and so it's something that, quite frankly, last year we weren't good enough with as a team, and that's why you go 9-8 and you miss the playoffs and you don't fare well in the division because our on-field communication can improve. And so it's a point of emphasis this year. We've acquired players that help with that communication as well, and they've taken on that role. And so, again, we're not taking it for granted. We're encouraging it on the field. We're encouraging it off the field. It's going to help us be a successful team.
Let's talk about Joe Burrow. I asked Logan Wilson about him the other day. He said there's nothing he doesn't see.
Yeah.
You played the position at a high level in college. How unique is that aspect of Joe Burrow?
Yeah, I mean, he's now kind of taking on the coaching role of how he sees a defense and how you can attack and how the run game is a part of that, and things that can really compromise defense or unveil maybe what their intent is a little bit. And so he does. He sees it faster than any of us coaches because that's why he can do it. I mean, it's one thing to see it on the tape and see it standing back. There's another thing when you actually have to stand up there on the ball and make those decisions. And so he's next level. He's rare in that way. It's a big part of why we can operate, why we can on offense, and he's spectacular when it comes to seeing all 21 other guys other than himself and kind of predicting what their next move is.
Yeah, I've never seen anybody process like that dude. I mean, it's like a computer. It's incredible. The other thing about him, though, and when I was a player and then after playing days, early broadcast days, Anthony Munoz, every year is a Pro Bowler. 11 straight years as a Pro Bowler. But who's the hardest worker on the team? Anthony Munoz. Mm-hmm. So it's like you have a guy that's been blessed with all these traits, yet he's an incredibly hard worker, like Joe Burrow, very similar. I mean, it's like your alpha dog is exactly what you want as a head coach. How big is that?
Yeah, your best players have to be your hardest workers, and that's how you get the most out of everybody on the roster, is when they see there's no other way. These guys are more talented than I am, and they work harder. Then there's no other acceptable avenue to being a part of our football team. And so, again, it's never perfect, but I think when your best players set that standard, it makes it easier to coach everybody else because they see that's how they've gotten to where they are.
You lost your offensive coordinator and close friend, Brian Callahan. He's now the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. He's been replaced by quarterbacks coach Dan Pitcher. And I remember in one of your first news conferences back in 2020, you referred to him back then as a rock star. What is it about Dan Pitcher over the last 5 years that's impressed you so much?
Incredibly bright, very, very bright in all areas, and so I think he sees football at a very high level. He can communicate it in a very efficient manner. He doesn't say too much. He says just the right amount. He brings great energy to the offense and to the team, whether he's presenting to the skill or the entire unit or he's on the field. I think he's got tremendous communication skills, and then when you just add in, how bright he is, and does a great job as a coworker, communicating and getting the most out of everybody and making sure everybody, stays up to task. And so, again, we're fortunate that he was here when I got the job, and I was smart enough to retain him, I guess.
We've talked about this before, but to me, the offensive meetings, Zac Taylor, former quarterback, Dan Pitcher, former quarterback, Justin Riscotti, former quarterback, the new pass game coordinator, Brad Craigthorpe, former quarterback, Joe Burrow, current quarterback, Jake Browning, current. All these quarterbacks, you guys are in meetings, dissecting and thinking best things to. That is like super high IQ football genius room going on there. Those meetings have to be incredible.
They're fun to be a part of. I probably take them for granted at this part because it's just what I've known. But you all tend to see it through the same lens because to an extent, everyone can put themselves at ground level standing in that pocket and relating in some form or fashion to what our quarterbacks go through. And I think the quarterbacks respect that element of it. Again, none of us were nearly as talented or did the things we needed to do to put ourselves in a position to play in the NFL. But there are things that are relative that you understand what a quarterback goes through. And until you've been in that meeting room as a player or been on the field and gone through what they go through and how to interact with your teammates, there are some traits that carry over. And I think there's that respect in the quarterback room when you've got guys that are coaching that have been in those positions themselves.
Let's turn to defense for a moment. Safeties tend to make the Pro Bowl based on interceptions and or forced fumbles. That would be nice. You would take it, obviously. But what do you need from Geno Stone and Von Bell for the defense to thrive?
I think as much as anything, they're going to put other guys in position to make those plays also. So if it's not them, they're going to be the ones that give that added layer of communication to put a guy one step closer to the play and be able to get a hand on a ball that pops up in the air that creates a turnover, or Vaughn, like he's known to be the guy that rips it out, right there next to Jermaine. And so I think that whether or not they are the ones that are directly touching the football, they're going to indirectly create turnovers as well.
We talked about Joe Burrow and how hard he works, but there are so many young players from year 1 to year 2, year 2 to year 3 or whatever, that have worked so hard in the offseason and have come back bigger, stronger, a step faster, a step quicker in short space. The wide receiver position is a battle royale. Everybody's thirsting for those snaps and performing at a high level. In the secondary, the athleticism, the speed of those young guys. How impressive is it to watch those battles on a daily basis?
It's fun. I think everybody has risen up. A lot of second-year players, like you're talking about, third-year players, are the competition's bringing the most out of them because there is opportunity for snaps and starting positions, and so guys are having to be on top of it every single day when they show up, and that's a good thing. That's helping the starting level of our team. It's helping the depth of our team. I really like the strides we've seen a lot of these second, third-year players make in this training camp, and we're going to need that to be able to be as successful as we want to be.
You spent 4 years with the Dolphins before you moved to Cincinnati the first time to work at the University of Cincinnati. What didn't you know about this franchise or this city that you've learned to love over the years?
I kind of knew because I think my favorite trip I ever took was 2012. We came up here to Cincinnati. I believe the final score was Dolphins 17, Bengals 13. But the night before the game, it was a Saturday night, and we stayed. It must have been the downtown area, and I think I went to Rock Bottom to eat dinner. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. And there was a UC game that night, and it was being played on a big jumbotron. I can't even. I live here now, and I can't even remember what it was because my memory. And I remember thinking, man, this is a really cool sports town. And then you go the next day to the game, and whether it was sold out or not, it felt like sold out. It felt like, man, we were in a battle here, and The fans were just on you, and it was a great atmosphere. And so I factor in the whole weekend, and that's rare to say that in NFL. Usually a Saturday, I don't care where I am, but I felt it downtown. I felt an energy. I felt the sports, the college sports atmosphere. And then we turned around and played the next day and had a ton of respect for just playing in the stadium with the fans. And I walked away with, that was my first trip to Cincinnati, walking away with a very positive impression of the city. And of course you're driving in over the river, and man, I didn't know Cincinnati was this pretty, and in the skyline and all that stuff. And so and I think they served us Skyline Chili in the tunnel after the game, and I was a little caught off guard by the phrasing of, hey, do you want a three-way or four? I was like, I don't think I'm touching that. But it stuck in my mind, like, what is happening there? And I bypassed that maybe for the pizza that was being served, but now I can't get enough Skyline. So, really come a long way in my 10 years since that trip.
You're a perfect fit. Best of luck this season, and thanks for the time.
Thank you. Appreciate it, guys.